if you go to abroad, you see that people are trying to obey the rules and regulations of their country. So I think it's a very good issue that Nigerians should think that whenever they are in the country, they should obey the rules and regulations of the country, because when they go to abroad, they used to obey those regulations. So if we can do this, Nigeria will develop and the people will respect us.
Bad character, bad behavior, foul language has been institutionalized, hate speech and the rest of them. Now you have to de-institutionalize same. You can't just do it. It has to be with laws.
All citizens are part and parcel of government, primarily because we are operating a participatory democracy that is representative in nature.
Seeing government implementing, or officials of government, and implementing, using the resources well, putting things in place that gradually alleviates hardship and poverty. If we see that, then we have no other option than to exercise patience and have hope.
Let us be good ambassadors for ourselves. We have a country, a beautiful one at that is passing through challenges, but a country that, in spite of all these challenges, provides a lot of hopes for its citizens. I am very sure that we will outlive these challenges, and Nigeria will be the better for it.
One of the famous quotes of former American football player Lou Holtz says, "Ability is what you're capable of doing. Motivation determines what you do. Attitude determines how well you do it." Attitudes are associated beliefs and behaviors towards an object because of communication, subject to change by social influences. It is the sum of thoughts and mannerisms that dictate behavioral tendencies. Researchers say most of the problems in Nigeria today are attitudinal and not social, political, or economic, like many believe them to be, mostly because some Nigerians do not obey the laws, rules, and regulations of the country. The need for Nigerians to start imbibing the right attitude triggered the campaign for attitudinal change in the country. The campaign focuses on exhibiting the right attitude for societal reformation towards national development and the good of all Nigerians. The campaign preaches change from negative attitudes to positive ones and good behavior to best for social growth.
We need change of attitude. No one is perfect. No society is perfect. Therefore, as we begin to dictate and see the wrong sides people are tending towards, there needs to be orientation. And that's why in many countries, even in Nigeria, you have orientation agency. Therefore, change of attitude should be part of the policy of any country or government. And there has to be various programs to ensure that people are also being followed up. The society is checkmated.
Attitudinal change refers to a positive or negative alteration of a mental disposition of an individual to act for or against a definite object, or a shift on the stance an individual upholds and cherishes about objects, issues, persons, groups, or institutions, from better to best, worse to worst, or positive to negative, or otherwise.
The National Orientation Agency has, among its core mandates, the job of creating an environment that will lead to bringing about a disciplined society, a society where there is a respect for order and for the rule of law, and of course where there are positive values that will go towards the creation, facilitation, sustenance of national development efforts and national development issues.
In 2016, the National Orientation Agency, NOA, began the Change Begins With Me campaign to restore what it describes as the country's badly eroded value system, the long-cherished and time-honored virtues of honesty, integrity, hard work, punctuality, good neighborliness, saying no to corruption, and the need to continue to exhibit the spirit of patriotism.
All stakeholders of the Nigerian project will need to do a lot in terms of attitudinal and behavioral conduct. We will need to have a paradigm shift. To start off, fortunately, the Nigerian state, by law, established the National Orientation Agency that is expected to provide leadership in this regard. The Ministry of Information is expected to provide some form of leadership as well. The political parties will need to understand that their role is not just for them to grab power for state capture. Their role is to harness and galvanize all the resources within our state. And as such, a number of socialization issues will need to be put in place. To put all these socialization things in place, there will be a need for us to take pains of reactivating all those principles that have been provided for by our laws, and for us to go back to the grassroots.
The Attitudinal Change campaign is targeted at developing a productive and patriotic human capital for social transformation and national development, focusing on its ability to target and accommodate a large number of people. The question is the change campaign targeting the fundamentals and attacking the root of the problem in the country?
We decided to cascade the attitudinal change campaign to include senior and the junior secondary school students. The idea is actually to bring to the fore the imperative of attitudinal change and behavioral change. This is very important because our values have collapsed. Because of these collapsed values, our attitude towards one another leaves much to be desired. Our attitude towards government property needs to change. Our attitude towards our official duties, that is for those who are in formal employment, needs to change. Our attitude on the streets need to change.
Advocates of change in Nigeria say there is no way the country can change for the better without the contribution of each and every citizen imbibing the core values that can promote that change and doing what they can for the good of the country. Former American football player, coach and analyst Lou Holtz also said, "The man who complains about the way the ball bounces is likely the one who dropped it."
For some of us, we try to still keep some of the age-long things that we were taught in primary school. You cannot see a paper on the floor in school those days and you walk past it. God have mercy on you that a class monitor is looking at you walk past that piece of paper and you did not pick it to go trash properly. You are not the one that dropped it, mind you, but the class monitor had the responsibility of ensuring that there is cleanliness in the school compound, not to come and talk of a teacher. So if you do not do that, and the class captain or class monitor reports you to a teacher, that is double jeopardy for you, because now you have disobeyed a constituted authority. If we can start at that early stage, it's going to help us that you will not be having some of the challenges that we are having, that people are not obeying rules and regulations. It's so easy for us to discuss at the global macro level and say there is corruption. What is corruption? Corruption is simply not doing what you are supposed to do at the right time. If you're an internal auditor in any system, money should not be missing in your establishment if you've done your due diligence. So we need to have this paradigm shift. To have this paradigm shift, we need to start early with a lot of social engineering that will come through public enlightenment, socialization, political socialization, through which we will help people to understand a number of these things.
Research shows that the evils of any society arises from the evils in the individuals that make up that society. These experts say makes every citizen of Nigeria responsible for the problems of Nigeria. Though most Nigerians complain about politicians and public office holders, these politicians are members of the society and selected from within the country.
Even if they were brought up badly, and we have come to the consciousness that there is need for change, how are they carrying this message on? If you want change to begin from me, and I go to my house to begin to preach to my children, and then maybe you are a minister of education, you are not instilling this in the teachers. You are not also encouraging those that have decided to adopt the better approach. You are not encouraging them to. So the change, yes, is a very good slogan. It must begin with me. I need to showcase that. I need to preach it from my home. Those in the offices must also preach the same.
The problem of attaining national development through a positive change of attitude on the part of elected representatives of government and the people is one of the core mandates of the Buhari administration. And during the launch of the Change Begins With Me campaign, President Buhari said, "The resultant effect of this derailment in our value system is being felt in the social, political, and economic sphere. It is the reason some youths will take to cultism and brigandage instead of studying hard and engaging in decent living. It is the reason that some elements will break pipelines and other facilities, thus robbing the nation of much-needed resources. It is the reason that money belonging to our commonwealth will be brazenly stolen by the same public officials to whom they were entrusted."
Where we got wrong is where when we completely disregarded community responsibility and when we started disregarding the authority of the state at the local government. That is why when you are talking about flooding arising from the abuse of the master plan, you look at the governor, not the local government chairman, not the district head, not the ward head, not the traditional ruler. But all these things are happening within a community. In the days that you are making reference to, the local communities tended to have a hierarchy of structures. And everyone within the community had some level of responsibility. And families that are actually considered as not being community conscious are even being singled out and ostracized by the larger community. So we have to go back to this. We must have to establish, the state must have to establish its authority at the lowest level, so that we will be able to contain all these problems that we see all about the place. Otherwise, impunity will continue, disregard for law and order will continue, people will just go about breaching the laws without any sanction, and the resultant effect of all this will be what we are now seeing.
In the speech, Mr. President went on to say, "It is the reason why motorists drive through red traffic light. It is the reason that many will engage in thuggery and vote stealing during elections. It is part of what has driven our economy into deep problems out of which we are now working to extricate ourselves. Every one of us must have a change from our old way of doing things. We cannot fold our hands and allow things to continue the old way.
If you drive in Abuja and you see the way, the wanton abandon with which people just flout the traffic rules, and the resultant effect of that, on lives, the number of lives that we lose on the roads purely because we cannot ordinarily obey simple traffic rules. These are all some of the things that we keep talking about for people to actually imbibe the correct culture, the correct attitude, the correct behavior, and the correct character towards one's own self, towards our neighbors, towards public and the private institutions, and ordinarily be good, responsive citizens that are conscious and aware of civic responsibilities.
Experts say the prosecution of offenders of the law, as well as enforcement of basic civic responsibilities, has not been encouraging to most Nigerians, even with measures in place to ensure people do the right thing.
Enforcement agencies must wake up to their responsibilities and to ensure that wherever there is infraction, those who breach the law must be made to face the music. That is the way to go. Even when they are arrested doing this, committing these breaches, they usually buy their way out. So there must be institutional responsibility. Responsibility bearers must have to wake up to their responsibilities and ensure that people who breach the law are made to face the music.
The concept or perception of the so-called government property, like many Nigerians call it, has been described as erroneous and blamed on the frequent acts of vandalization of public facilities and petroleum pipelines being witnessed in the country. Though the realization of positive change is not expected to happen overnight, the campaign is expected to help restore the value system and rekindle the Nigerian people's nationalistic spirit and the fact that every single Nigerian is a part of government.
By the time we destroy our property, we are reducing our wealth. That's another thing we need to sink into our people. Government property is ours. Social goods and amenities are there to facilitate our own movement and enterprise. If you destroy it, you have caused a breakdown of the progress. So you will slow down the system. If you destroy transformer, for example, there won't be light in that area for a long time or for some period of time. It means you have to, if you must work, you have to fall back to using generator, and it's quite more expensive. So you hurt yourself by hurting or destroying government property. You hurt ourselves. Stealing government property. For me, if you engage, people that engage in that, they are thieves. That's a simple way to call it. But then, how are we or those people trained from home?
The government emerges from the society. And just like one sociologist said, he said a leader is a product of the society, and a leader is as good as the society that elected him. So if a leader is bad, check that society is bad. These are political appointees. We put them in position of power. So they are microcosm, they are representative, they are basic, exemplification of the society. A leader represents what is in the society. So it's not all about government. Of course, government has a responsibility to anchor everything, but it's about attitude. It's about attitudinal changes.
Painfully, the government, that is the executive and the legislative branch occupants, are quick to accuse the citizenry of perceiving them wrongly. Meanwhile, it is actually they that are public office holders that are the real problems of the Nigerian state. If they will be as responsive, if they will be as accommodating in a participatory manner, we will not be having the challenges of discontent, discordant information management system that we're having. And we will not be having the statecraft manipulation that is always emanating from state actors.
Government is, aside those that we have elected to carry out formal responsibilities, it's me and you. When I deliberately discharge the waste from my house into the drains, this is an irresponsible behavior, because eventually I do that, you do that, he does that, she does that. We are invariably, definitely causing blockage. And when it rains, and it rains heavily, we all become culprits in whatever will be the fallout of a blocked drain. And so, what moral responsibility or what moral right do we have to say government has not done that, when we are the ones, through our action and the inaction, that is making the job of government difficult?
Some Nigerians on the streets of Abuja share their views about some behaviors Nigerians exhibit that are not good for Nigeria's development as it relates to the concept of behavioral and attitudinal change in the country.
There's a lot of people that you see that when the traffic light has now stopped you, I think you're supposed to have stopped, because that is the usual thing. But you see that some people are trying to disobey the traffic light, which is not good, because it's an issue that can bring an accident and an issue that can make a commotion in the city and in urban centers. So some of those things, I think, is not good for the nation, and it's good that a citizen of any nation should be obeying the rules and regulations.
This issue of favoritism and nepotism, because you are in a position, you want to use the position to, to your own selfish advantage, selfish interest, to such an extent that you now favor, you use primordial sentiments to favor those that belong to your narrow enclave. This is what makes somebody to say, because he's from a particular part of the country, he will now be given appointments and preferential treatments to people that are within that enclave. All these sentiments, they do not help us as a country. Corruption is another one. That one has eaten deep into the fabrics.
You see most people dispose waste in the city of Abuja is alarming. I mean, you just take a soda, and then you look at, for example, here we are now, in the metropolitan area, somebody will just throw trash, throw cans, throw paper bag, leathers and all that in the street of Abuja is really a cause for concern. Many people, they just do it. I don't know if they do it ignorantly, or they don't take their time to even look at the area if they made provision for trash bin.
Attributing most of the problems to breakdown of values, some Nigerians believe family is crucial, as good parenting is essential for the youths to learn the best aspects of Nigeria's national values.
The issue of youth engaging in cybercrime and criminality is on the negative side and does not go well for the country. No nation can develop where the youths are into cybercrimes. All these Yahoo boys, they are product of breakdown of values, societal values, poor parenting. So I think the issue has to do with parental background. Somebody is not doing the right thing at the right time. If every parent will take care of their children, inculcate the desirable aspect of values into them, I believe the issue will be a thing of the past.
The family, from the family, the father and the mother must behave well to the village must behave well to the system and the society and the institution before you talk about government. Some fathers and mothers pay bribe for their children to actually pass ordinary WAEC. Most of all wrote without. My father doesn't know where I wrote WAEC. My father paid for it, he left me to pass my WAEC. My brother don't even know I got an admission. But today, parents go and actually get admission for their children. You know, some parents even support their children to be Yahoo. Some parents support their children to go and do a shower work. So how can you grow forward?
You have to enforce some of the things that are against the law. So the enforcement, I think, is what Nigerians need. So you don't just change. If you leave human beings to behave the way they want to behave or the way they think, things will never work right. Because everybody wants to be above the other.
The National Orientation Agency, NOA, says attitudes between individuals among different religious sects, intertribal groups, those linking the responsibilities of the government and citizens to one another, as well as attitude of Nigerians on the international scene must change. The change begins with me campaign is targeted at this because, as stakeholders have reiterated, the survival of any individual in Nigeria is linked to the survival and development of the country.
We need to expand the frontiers of the messaging. We need to involve more stakeholders. We need to make government conscious. We need to make citizens aware that for every breach, there must be sanctions. And that both adult and the young people must have to appreciate the fact that there are certain civic responsibility that we owe to each and every other person, to ourselves, to our community, to the country.